welcome back to Franklin Covey's On Leadership series. My name is Scott Miller, and I serve as your host each week. For those of you who are subscribing to our weekly newsletter, we appreciate your support in that. Be sure to refer us to all of your colleagues, to your friends, family members. Our newsletter comes out complimentary every week on Tuesdays to your inbox and features a different interview every week with a new thought leader, best-selling author, or an otherwise really smart person who we think has insight to provide to all of us as we look to develop our leadership skills. Today, we have nailed the expert nationally on career advice and development. He happens to be FranklinCovey's Director of Global Recruiting. Aaron Thompson is here on the set. Welcome, Aaron.
Thank you, Scott.
Great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
We interviewed you on FranklinCovey's radio program called Great Life, Great Career on iHeartRadio a few months ago. It's one of the most popular and frequently downloaded podcasts in the series. So we said, why not have you back on? Because what you have to share is relatable and replicable to all of our lives. You are an expert on helping people really kind of find their right fit career-wise. You've been in the firm for 21 years, is that right?
I have.
You have read, interviewed, rejected, hired literally thousands of people. I can't imagine how many, probably 20, 30,000 resumes you've seen.
More than that.
Yeah, more than that.
Yeah.
You know, thousands of video interviews. I think the research shows that on average now, most people, your age, not my age, are having somewhere between 5 and 7 careers over the course of their lifetime, which is different than our parents, right? I mean, my father worked for a company for his entire life, one company, 35 plus years.
Yep.
You and I have both been in this firm for 20 plus years.
We're uncommon.
We are uncommon, that's right. But you're seeing it not just the norm, but very acceptable to have a career with the company for, 4 to 5 years sometimes on average.
Yep.
And when we were raised, it was a little bit shameful to kind of move around. Now it's the norm, is it not?
Absolutely, it's the norm.
So we've got you here for about 30 minutes today. I want to just kind of rapid fire about 30 questions to you.
Okay.
About a minute or two at the most for each of them. We're going to go about 35 minutes because you have a wealth of knowledge I want to have transferred out to our population today. First and foremost, I love this quote from Harvey Mackay that says, dig your well before you're thirsty, a very famous book that he wrote. And you have a very similar passion that people should take control of their careers and not kind of give them over to their boss or their employer. Expand on that thought a little bit.
Yeah, so you, at the end of the day, you own your career. And you need to take responsibility for it. And you're going to work for 40 plus years. So be thinking about your career 5 years from now, 10 years from now. What can you do to kind of build to achieving your career goals? And so a bad career strategy, I think, is waiting for your boss to retire.
Yeah.
A good career strategy is having intermediate goals over the next year, the next couple of years to develop yourself. Ask for advice, ask for help. Some companies are better at promoting from within than others. I think, at FranklinCovey, we promote from within. I think we have a good culture for that. Not all companies do. So it's worth being deliberate about developing and taking ownership for your career, because ultimately it's up to you.
I think it's sound advice. I was coaching a colleague of mine, Nick Carrier. He has a webcast called, I think it's Your Best Self, and he interviewed me, and I was talking about how deliberate I've been with my own career. Back when I was in my early 20s, I sort of made a bit of a Gantt chart, and I plotted out where I wanted to be when I was 60. And I kind of backed it into the 8 or 10 positions that I needed, both in terms of skill development and international experience and a C-level job and a marketing role and a sales role. And I've tacked pretty close to mine. And I think that statement of when you write your goals down and visualize them, the odds they'll become true are higher. I think the same applies to your career. I think too few people think even broader than 1 or 5 years, that thinking out 10, 15 years can help you be more deliberate with picking your jobs.
Absolutely.
Do you find that when people are interviewing with you, too few do that? Or do you think people have not just the next job, but how that's going to help them move to the next career as well in mind?
I think too few people do that. I think most people are looking for, they're looking for their next job. That's what's front and foremost on their mind. That's what's most important. I don't know that they're always piecing together how this will impact 5, 10 plus years down the road. And candidly, it's okay. It's okay. But the more that you can do that, the better when you have that longer term plan.
You're not a financial planner,
No.
but I'll bet you there is a correlation to people's short-sightedness on career development and their need for a paycheck.
Yes.
And some of the best advice I got from someone was a colleague of mine, Roger Baca. He went to a career transition, and when he lost this job he'd
I
had.
used to work for Roger.
Yeah. So when he left FranklinCovey, his job was eliminated. I talked to him like the next day and said, "Are you concerned?" And he said, "Not really. It's been a great run, but my wife and I have been really prudent with our finances, so I'm okay. I can take as much time as I need to find the right fit." And he did that. And I think some great career advice is get your financial house in order so that if you are looking for a job, you're not forced to take something that is short term.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when it's common for people to go through career transition. It's not uncommon for people to lose a job at some point. Companies are whitewater, they're topsy-turvy, things change, you can get laid off.
Yeah.
It does happen. In fact, it's almost be more unique if that didn't happen to you once through your career than if, and so.
It's not a badge of shame either, is it?
No. It's normal. So be prepared for that. And sometimes when that happens, when one door closes, another opens. So another opportunity comes along. I have a friend who got laid off from a company, and he found another opportunity with another organization. He's in finance and accounting, and he's grown tremendously in this company. He looks back at that and goes, "That's the best thing that happened to me, that I got laid off because it created this other opportunity." So, it happens. Tell everybody. People want to help you, so don't be ashamed about it. Be open about it. And don't hesitate to take a gap job if you need to. Do some consulting work or do something while you find that right position. When I graduated from college, if I can be a little self-referenced, Scott, I pointed the bat at FranklinCovey. That's a company I wanted to work for. I read The 7 Habits when I was 17 years old. My dad in 1989 attended Stephen Covey's workshop on The 7 Habits. It was hot off the press. He came home from this workshop. It was just an evening kind of overview of the book. He set it on the counter. I snatched it. I don't think my dad ever saw the book again. I read it, set life goals. I really loved the book. But graduating from college, I wanted to work for FranklinCovey. But it took me 6 months to get in the door here. And what did I do? I went and worked at a local golf shop because I love golf. It was my gap job for a little while until I got in the door here.
So as a seasoned executive level recruiter, you don't look down on any resume if someone has been laid off or they've taken some gap jobs. You empathize with that to say this lady or man is providing for their family. They're just filling it in.
I value that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, of course, I want to know their story and what happened and reasons why and what changed. And I could be suspect, in some cases if it doesn't seem right. But by and large, I respect it, that you're willing to do whatever it takes to support your family.
Speaks to work ethic and commitment and responsibility.
Exactly.
Right.
So I value that. And it's okay that you may not have had a job that was exactly what you wanted for a period of time.
Yeah. Aaron, big buckets today. The first bucket I want to talk about is education. It's a passion of yours to understand how much and how little is necessary. Talk a little bit about the importance of choosing the right amount of education for someone's career.
Yeah, I mean, so as a general rule, get all the education that you can, especially as it relates to your field of study and your career. But you got to be smart about it. Education is very expensive today. And so I think you got to be thinking about the education that I'm getting. Is it going to directly lead to career opportunity, and is it going to increase my earning potential? So certainly to get a bachelor's degree of any kind, I recommend, or if you're choosing a trade school or other forms of education. But in terms of master's and above, I'd be strategic about how is this really going to help advance my career? Because if I just go get a master's or a PhD in aeronautics or philosophy or whatever it is that really advancing my career? And can I afford that education?
I'm going to guess most of the jobs at FranklinCovey don't require an advanced degree because we're not a high-tech company or a medical company, and there's some exceptions. As a recruiter, do you look more or less favorably if someone's gone and achieved an MBA or a master's in some segment versus they've invested in an equal amount by hours, perhaps, of continuing education or certifications? Do you have a proclivity towards one or the other?
I value both. I mean, an MBA is universal. You can apply it to all aspects of business. So an MBA is very valuable. But there's so many opportunities, certificate programs. I mean, isn't it Seth Godin who offers the
Alt MBA?
Alt MBA.
Right.
I mean, there's opportunities like that are really valuable. And so there's so many ways to learn today. I mean, FranklinCovey, what do? We help educate and develop employees.
If you look at a resume and someone has under, say, certifications in professional development, and they've attended or gone through perhaps some of our competitors, right? FranklinCovey or Ken Blanchard or Center for Creative Leadership, do those things appeal to you?
Absolutely. They're all valuable. Yes, that just adds to your resume, to your life experience, to what you know. All really valuable.
Okay.
So be a learner, be a lifelong learner, whether that's formal education or informal.
So let's roll up our sleeves and kind of talk about early career evolution. What advice would you give people sort of just out of high school or coming out of college as they're looking at companies they want to target and join?
Yeah. So target companies that you have some connection with or interest in working for, because it's so easy to research companies. You can hop on the internet, learn a little bit about the organization, what they do, and target companies that you would be excited about being a part of. And then just find a way in the door and find where you can work for someone that where it's a healthy culture, you can learn from the people around you. Look for internships where you can just kind of gain experience in different areas.
How valuable or important are internships for early career entry professionals?
Really important, yeah. That experience, just a little bit of experience with a few different companies make you much more valuable coming in the door than if you're just brand new out of college, really no work experience. If you have some work experience, very valuable.
Is it more because they have some experience working in a corporate culture, or do you think they've actually learned some things, or a little bit of both?
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
That experience in the corporate culture is very important. They can collaborate, work well with others, but also that they're starting to develop some skill sets. I mean, how many interns have we hired in marketing at FranklinCovey?
Almost
that
everyone coming in starts at an internship.
Right.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
You have a story, is it Shrilina?
Yes.
Story, and talk about that.
So Shrilina has been interning with FranklinCovey the last year as a Salesforce analyst intern. And she's just finishing up her business analytics degree at the University of Utah. She's really bright, wicked smart with analytics and technology and machine learning, that kind of thing. And so I've been promoting her a little bit in the company to leaders. Hey, this is someone you ought to at least talk to, have an informational discussion with, see if she might help you. So she's done that. She had a couple of conversations in the organization. Well, our CIO spoke at the U just a few weeks ago. Shrilina went and introduced herself. They met and connected and had an informational discussion. And our CIO was like, oh my goodness, where our company's going right now with our technology and All Access Pass and what we're doing, we need this kind of talent in the organization. And she's meeting with Shrilina is meeting with our Vice President of Innovations today to explore a role that we really don't have open, but we really have need for. So she created a whole business plan around how she might help FranklinCovey, given where our business is headed today and what her skill sets are about. So
she could do that because she was in the firm, right? It had some sense for it.
Exactly.
It's harder outside the firm. Do you think internships are reserved for people coming just out of college? Do you see more seasoned professionals ever taking some time to do an internship somewhere? Is it more for early career entry?
More so out of college.
Yeah.
But you might get hired on, in temporary roles with an organization where they're not quite, they don't have the budget for this role, but they need some temporary help. That's another good way to get in the door, is be open to...
High correlation between people coming in as a contractor or as a temporary assigned employee earning their influence and showing their contribution and getting hired on to a full-time job.
Contract work is a great way to go.
Yeah. Let's talk resumes. You've read tens of thousands. You said a lot more.
So many. Oh, yeah.
Hundreds of thousands
I
of
go
resumes.
through them like that.
You do. That's interesting.
Yep.
So assimilate the hundreds of thousands in your head. 2019, what are some of the best resumes looking like to the optic eye, or does that even matter? Do you even actually see how they're laid out? Are they scanned in with algorithms? What's the art of resume building right now?
Yeah. So the key things that I look for are your career summary. And it's right at the top. It's just a brief statement about who you are and where you're headed.
Sometimes I see it as like your professional profile.
Your professional profile. That's very important.
2 or 3 sentences, 8 or 10 sentences?
4 or 5.
And what should it say? Give me an example.
So, I'm an HR professional with experience in recruiting and employee development.
Yep.
And looking forward, I want to continue to build that career and advise others in building and landing great careers.
Why is that important to you as a recruiter to read that couple sentences?
It allows me to know what genre of work they're passionate about and where their experience and skills are. And that's because I'm assimilating that to where might they fit. So that just gives me a quick snapshot of where do they go. Should
candidates revise that for different jobs that they're applying for?
Yeah, we're multifaceted people, multi-talented people. So revise it for various positions. Yep, I would do that.
How often do paper resumes come across your desk?
Every day.
Every day?
Oh, yeah.
So people should have them print and digital. Sometimes they come digital and you'll print them out and look at them.
Yep.
Any special format? Anything's not to do? Glamour shots?
Yeah, I mean, glamour shots, if you put your picture on a resume, it's not the end of the world, but I don't recommend it.
Okay.
That's LinkedIn.
Right.
Because pictures are standard there,
Right.
so I definitely have it on LinkedIn. But the biggest advice that I have is just make it easy to read. Recruiters, visually, lots of white space, lots of bullet points. I just need to be able to skim and scan that in 30 seconds easily. If I see a bunch of paragraphs and I'm not going to read it. So it's okay to have a 1, 2, even 3-page resume, if you're experienced in your career, but just make it easy for me to clip through.
So don't have a 3-pager if you're 22 years old.
No.
Right. Don't stretch it out.
Right.
What types of things should they not include on it that people think they want to put on it, and you say, don't put that on your resume? Any heads up or watch outs there?
Not really. I mean, if the further down your career, you can start to drop some things off. So you don't need to list that you're an Eagle Scout any longer. You don't need to list that you graduated from high school. Those things make me laugh sometimes, things like that. But no, just the most relevant things that's going to help you in achieving, in landing that role that you want, keep on there. But other stuff that maybe is not as relevant, you can start to drop off.
So Aaron, you're the director of recruitment for FranklinCovey, this global company, offices in almost 60 countries. Tens of thousands of resumes coming a week into your whole division. You have a team of recruiters that work for you. What are all the ways that resumes come in, and how do they get to the top? So they probably come in from all these career search sites, right?
Yep.
Ladders and Monster and Indeed, all those. They probably come in from referrals. Does anybody ever drop the resume off at the front desk receptionist, and does that matter, and do you discourage that or encourage that?
Yeah, on occasion, maybe a couple times a month, I'll have someone show up at our front door.
Unannounced.
Right. They'll ask for, the receptionist will call me or one of our other recruiters, and
do you come out?
Yeah. If I can. If I'm busy, I can't.
Right.
But if I can, I will, and I actually value that. I value just the tenacity to walk in the door and to ask to talk to someone.
For someone who's not proximate geographically, I'm looking for a job in a company in Miami, can't get there, how do I get my resume to stand out and gain the attention of the internal recruiting group at a company 5 states away?
Yeah, you got to network. So who do you know that works at that organization that could refer you in?
No one.
Okay, so you got to get on LinkedIn. And you got to search who's working at that company in areas that you're interested in.
So I need to find an ambassador somehow, somewhere in that company, of someone who will shepherd my resume over into the HR department for me.
Yes. So I can think of three. I can think of several actually. Client partners. It's a sales role at FranklinCovey. We have 180 client partners across the nation, both with our corporate business and our education practice. And I can think of several who ping me directly on LinkedIn and express their interest in the role and just reasons why they think they would be really good at it. And they not only pinged me, they pinged the hiring leader, they might have pinged the CEO, they pinged other persons in that role. And so when that comes in, I take a look at it for sure. And we've hired several of those people that were very deliberate about going after FranklinCovey because they felt like they had skills and abilities that fit well with our company and culture.
So how does someone get your attention? Let's say they can't find an ambassador in the firm, or their efforts to reach out have been shunned or just ignored because people are busy. What's the appropriate way for someone who's targeted FranklinCovey? They don't have a network inside the company. They've tried, they failed. They live in Europe. They're moving to Utah a year from now, and they want to get your attention. Is it to email you, call you, text you, send flowers to your house? I mean, honestly, what is the appropriate way to get Aaron Thompson's attention? Because there's hundreds of thousands of Aaron Thompsons across the world, and they're all just as buried and busy as you are.
Yeah.
Because you're the guy to get to.
Be persistent. Keep after it.
It's not annoying to you.
No. All of those ways that you just mentioned,
okay.
I'd utilize all of them.
So if I sent my resume, if I found your house address and I sent my resume to your house with a note, you wouldn't feel stalked or offended?
No.
Okay?
No. It's going to get my attention. I'm going to look at it, and I'm going to respond.
Yeah.
I'm going to, I'm not just going to completely ignore you. I'm going to make sure that we respond. And if you're not a fit, if you're just flat out not a fit,
you'll tell us.
I'll tell you that.
Right.
But if there's any connectivity there because of your tenacity and your persistence and your creativity to get in the door, look, I'm looking for, on the sales side, I'm looking for salespeople that have all that tenacity, that are willing to ping multiple people in the organization to get in the door. It's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So I value that a lot.
Let's talk about websites, Indeed and Monster and Ladders and others. Any you like more than the other? They serve different purposes. If you were today severance from FranklinCovey and you had to go out and find a new job, walk me through the first week or so of what your job search would be like.
Yeah, so there's really two approaches in my mind to take when you're looking for your next career. One is a narrow search.
Okay.
And so it's...
Point the bat at a couple of companies that you're interested in.
Yeah, I think 5 to 10.
Okay.
What are the 5 to 10 companies that you think you'd like to work for because you have experience that connects with those companies, you resonate with their product or service or what they do, and you would want to be there. So then it's a networking. Again, it's networking to help get in the door. And utilizing LinkedIn, professional networking site, is really valuable. So definitely do that. Ask advice, from people to how you can get in the door to that organization. The resume is one thing, but getting a face-to-face meeting with someone is what's most important.
So at any given time, your team's recruiting for 20, 30, 40 roles or such, or more.
Yeah.
Do you use these websites actively to help you rise to the cream of the crop, so to speak, the resumes, Indeed and others?
Yeah, so we use LinkedIn, we use Career Builder, we use Indeed. We've picked 3 or 4 because there's so many, you can't use them all. Right. There's certainly industry sites if you're in technology or other areas where you want to be on, the sites that are most relevant to your industry. But yeah, we pick a few and we go with those. But certainly the wide search, right, is where you're just applying to all kinds of positions, and is that
good or bad for someone's brand, or do you even know so it doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta apply at a lot of places to get lucky for one. I mean, I can think of a few senior people we have here who we hired off, Career Builder or other sites like that. I mean, I would still say 30 to 40% of our hires still come off job boards.
Wow.
Now, we as recruiters have to sift through a lot to get to the gold, to the gems, but we still utilize those. We still hire from those.
Seems like the
yeah.
first approach is probably better, that point the bat, because when you hear these stories around people that applied for 340 jobs and got no responses, I'm guessing it's because they just had a sort of milquetoast, white vanilla resume, one for all. And I got to think that's not nearly as valuable as pointing the bat at 5 or 10 companies and truthfully catering your resume, that's true, to each one of those and say, I want to get a job at FranklinCovey with Aaron. I'm going to make sure my resume speaks to this particular job in this company, as opposed to one resume that's just kind of cast to the wind.
Still be strategic, even if you're applying at a ton of different companies and kind of spreading wide. Still be strategic about the genre that you work in.
Yeah.
Like, for me, I'd be looking for HR servicing companies, or video interviewing companies, or assessment organizations or staffing firms, because I have experience as a recruiter. I can relate to all those kinds of companies because I've worked in that genre, that industry.
Makes sense. Okay, you mentioned it, interviewing. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Seems like the trend is to, before you're ever going to get a live in-person interview, they're going to fly you out or they're going to book a time with you if you're local, almost everyone's doing some type of video interview first.
Yeah, it's very common now.
Talk through how that works. So if you were my coach or my brother and I was getting ready to do an interview, what am I going to experience in this video interview?
Yeah, you're going to get an email that says, hey, congratulations, you got the interview.
Okay.
You'll be able to log in, take a few practice questions, but a question comes across the screen.
I see.
You have a minute to think about it. You have up to 3 minutes to answer it.
So stop there because you're going a little fast for me.
Yeah.
So I'm going to log in at an appointed time or whenever I want.
Whenever you want, on demand.
Right,
Yeah.
and I'll have my laptop in front of me at my house, dressed professionally, obviously, right?
Yep.
And there's going to be a couple of test questions that come across the screen for me to get my groove.
Get your groove.
You're never going to see those as the recruiter.
Right.
You're not going to see them.
Nope, I won't see them. Just making sure all your audio is working.
Yeah. So at some point on my own, I'm going to hit record or whatever it is.
Yep.
You have pre-programmed how many questions?
5 or 6.
5 or 6?
Yep.
And they're going to come at me, and I'm to answer those to the best of my ability, obviously. The whole video interview is?
It's about 15 minutes.
15 minutes. I hit send or done, and it comes to you.
Yep.
Someone on your team then starts reviewing them.
Yep.
The whole thing?
The whole thing or parts of it.
Right.
I'm going to have them right on my phone. I can just go pop it. I can skip through questions. I can watch as much or as little of it as I want.
And the team that you lead is doing this all day long too?
Yes.
They're just flipping through. They're stopping and watching one. They're calling you in if they love one, or if it's really poor, they're skipping past it.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So in almost most organizations now, a video interview is the first hurdle after the resume.
It's not always. It could be, though. So be prepared to do a video or a digital on-demand interview. It's very common now. It's not every time.
What tips would you give someone to make sure they nail their video interview?
Yeah, so just be genuine, be yourself, relax in front of the camera.
Humor?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah. If you can add some humor in there, you bet.
You're a recruiter, but you're still human, right? I mean,
Be human.
Yeah.
And just be concise, in terms of answering the questions. Just because you have 3 minutes, you don't have to take that whole 3 minutes.
Okay.
Get to it, get to the point, answer the questions, move on.
Great.
Yeah.
They passed the video interview. What's next?
Yeah, so next up interview would be an interview with the recruiter.
On the phone typically, or
on the
video
phone
conference?
or video conference. Yeah.
So Zoom or Skype is a tool you use a lot.
We use Zoom a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And
do you give any advice on what they should wear in that video interview, the Skype or Zoom call?
The on-demand interview, dress like you're in a live in-person interview.
Any advice on where you should be? I know it's not Starbucks, but do you care about living room, bedroom, office, WeWork?
Not so much. It can be anywhere. Just be cognizant of what's behind you, that that it's appropriate.
Right. Yeah. Have you ever had some that weren't?
No. Not
that
really.
you'll disclose. Okay.
Yeah, not that I'll disclose.
Yeah.
But just be comfortable with it. Yeah.
Okay. Fast forward, live in-person interview. What not to do? Give me a half dozen don't do these things because it's going to not end well for you.
Yeah. So don't overtalk. Right. It's easy in an interview to answer the questions and just keep going.
Right.
So know your story, your background, your experience. But be concise. Get to the point, answer the question, and then just stop talking.
It's hard for me. Because you're going to pick it up and take it where you want to next.
Yes.
Right. People
Yeah.
are nervous,
Yeah.
so they chatter on.
It's very common for people to overtalk.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean we're not going to hire you.
Right.
We might coach you around that.
Yeah.
But just be cognizant of it.
Okay, what else?
Yeah.
Keep going. A couple more.
Yeah. So be consultative. So at the appropriate time in the interview, be prepared to ask some really great questions around, hey, what does success in this role look like? What are key attributes that this person, whoever you hire, needs to have to be wildly successful in this role? What are attributes of others that have been very successful in this role?
Well, I'm guessing failed, right? Who's failed in this and why?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, who's failed and why? What are the roadblocks? So
What percentage of the people that are asking those great questions,
Mm-hmm.
then also writing down the answers?
yeah, some are taking notes.
You would expect everyone to.
Yeah. If not, they're taking notes right here.
Okay.
And in their follow-up, right?
Right.
They're tying back to what they learned in the interview and how they'd approach the role. So there's really good follow-up and tying back to the conversation.
On the radio program, we talked about in our previous interview how important it is that people come clear on what they can add to the business. That they're just not all thinking, what can they take away, but they have a reverse mindset of, here's what I'm going to do to progress your goals as a company, and kind of have that mindset throughout. You can tell if someone has oriented their way towards that or if they're just thinking about what they can take away.
Yeah, so I'd recommend if you're getting past that, certainly the recruiter interview, you're getting further down the interview process, to be thinking about and even put pen to paper a business plan, right? Here's what I'm learning about the organization. Here's what I'm learning about the goals of this role. Here's what I do in this position. My first 90 days in the role, my first 6 months in the role, and create a business plan of what you would do. And it just shows that you're really being strategic, you're being real thoughtful around how you could add value. And sometimes we ask for a business plan, but even if we don't ask for it, it's very appropriate to come and be prepared to talk about that and leave it behind. Yeah.
Aaron, any insights or opinions? We hear a lot about, and everybody is increasingly aware, the role that unconscious bias plays in our professional lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
In our personal lives. Mm-hmm. And you hear a lot about these studies of, people that have ethnic sounding names or female versus male and such. What do you do as the leader of the recruitment team to make sure that you're not letting your own biases come into early interviewing in terms of your own prejudice and such? Mm-hmm. Is it a real issue that you face and struggle with?
I think you got to be aware of it, mm-hmm. and you got to be very open to all forms of success in that role and what that might look like. I have my own biases. You have your own biases. Right. We all do. So to be cognizant of that. Our hiring leaders, everyone that I recruit for in this company, they have their own biases. And you know what? I know what they are.
And do y'all talk about them?
Because, yes.
Yeah, and surface them?
Because I've recruited for these people so many times.
Yes.
I know what
they like and don't like.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's your job to kind of keep everybody aware of their biases and
yes.
reminding them when they're creeping in.
I can think of a client partner that we hired, 5 years ago, and the hiring leader watched the digital interview and said, I'm not interested. And I called up this sales leader and I said, you know what? I've had an hour-long conversation with this person. They're awesome. You're going to really like this person. I really want you to at least spend a half hour and talk to this person because they're really strong. And so he did. 6 years later, 5-6 years later, that's a strong performing salesperson for FranklinCovey. And a few times that sales leader has said, Aaron, I'm so glad.
Wow, it's great.
Good
story.
So there was a bit of bias when they watched that digital interview. They said, no, I'm not interested. And then, things changed.
Our time is tight, couple minutes left. What advice would you give the person that's in their perhaps 50s and 60s, they're in transition, they're not ready to retire yet, both intellectually, mentally, and financially, and they need one more run, but they feel like they're getting discriminated against, they can't get some traction because they're older in their career? Any advice you would give to people in that situation on how to rebrand themselves, get some traction?
Talk to a lot of these people. Yeah. And I think they need to be very flexible with opportunities that they might pursue. What I mean by that is oftentimes they've been very senior in their careers. they've led the company or the business unit or the team, and now they're considering roles where they're going to be a player on the team again and not leading it. So they need to be coachable. And
in terms of ego, as in they're willing to step down a notch?
They do, yes.
And does that ever frighten you? Do you ever get nervous, or are you inspired by someone who was a divisional general manager and now they're willing to be a team player? How do you view that as a recruiter?
I love it.
You do?
Because we get this excellent talent inside the organization who has so much experience and can add so much value, but they have to be okay to report to someone who's younger and, quite frankly, less experienced than they are. They may not earn as much as they are used to earning, and but if they're coachable and flexible and they still want to add value, they put enough money in the bank where they don't have to earn what they've made in the past. I love it.
You see it happening increasingly.
Yes.
How does it work out? Because I would have to think it would be, for most people, a bit of an ego enema, we call it, to just kind of step down. Are most people, are some people, few people able to step back and then thrive in a more junior role?
Some, not all.
Not the majority.
Yeah, I would say, there's half that can, but half, they're wired to lead. They're wired to be the senior person, and I don't blame them for not wanting to be. But they have to go find that role too.
Last question. The best career searches you've seen, what do they look like?
Career search.
What are the people tangibly doing that they're out there and they're nailing the job? They have the best resume. They have the best interviews. Are there some kind of diamonds out there to say, make sure you do this, this, and this, because it will exponentiate your likelihood of getting the job?
Yeah. I think I've talked about it a bit, but they're being real deliberate with just that short list of companies that they want to be a part of, pointing the bat. They know the company well in terms of the language, the culture. They've read the annual report if it's publicly traded. They know what's on the minds of the CEO, what's on the mind of the CEO and senior leaders, and they can connect how they can come in and contribute and make a difference. It's about adding value, right? And producing results and making it different for that organization. And that's what they're focused on. Now, compensation is always important. It's an important consideration, and they need to be, as a recruiter, I'm always wanting to know what range do you need to be in to consider this opportunity.
Are we even talking the same
sport? Are we in the right ballpark,
right?
But if that's all in alignment, are they in a position where they can really add value?
Do you prefer the candidate not bring up compensation?
I'm okay if they do.
You're fine either way.
But if they don't, I will.
Right.
It's always important to make sure that that's addressed. And
those who don't, are they not concerned about it, or they've been coached not to bring it up early on?
They've probably been, they're focused on how they can make a difference, how they can add value, and they don't want to have compensation be a stumbling block early on in the interview process. But be prepared to talk about it. When I ask people, look, be prepared to share a range, right? What do you need to make between X and Y to consider this opportunity or any other opportunity? Know what your range is. When people say, I'm not real comfortable to share that, it's kind of a showstopper.
Wow.
I mean, you kind of got to be prepared to share that.
Right.
And they might turn it to me and say, well, what range does this opportunity, pay?
And you're okay with that too?
And I'm okay with that. I'm going to answer that question. You bet.
Aaron, we could go for another hour easily. Our time is up. How often do you interview someone for one particular role and you determine that fit's not exactly right, but you've got 5 or 6 others over here you're thinking, this actually might be something that could fit you better?
It happens quite often.
It does.
Yes. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm looking for talent just talented people that have strong work ethic and discipline. They're collaborative, they're synergistic, they want to make a contribution, right? And when I find those people, if they're multifaceted, we're multifaceted people. I want to get you in the organization. And so, I'll recommend you to other areas if I think there's a strong enough correlation.
Because I'm guessing not every role that's coming available is on the website. You at any given time know there's 20 or 30 more that might be open in the next 3 or 4 months, and you've got them in your head or on your board or on your computer, and you're obviously thinking about, could it fit here or could it fit there?
Yes, and when I talk to someone who I think is really talented, and we don't have a position for them, I'll still recommend them to various leaders where I think they might be able to utilize someone like that. So I will promote people within the organization when I think they could really help us.
Finish off, final point, social media. How important is it for people to have some social media? Can you have too much? Do you ever go into somebody's Instagram or Pinterest or Facebook page and look around a little bit?
On occasion.
You don't have a lot of time to surf the web.
I mean, on occasion, I do. When some of those sites were brand new and first out, I did more so, but I don't really have time for it.
Right.
But just be aware of what you have out on social media, how you represent yourself, be cognizant of it, and make sure it's professional. Yeah.
Sir, great conversation. I'm going to hire you for my next career when FranklinCovey cans me.
Hey, I'd be happy to help. But no, we want you here, Scott. You're not going anywhere.
Aaron, thanks for your time today. We'll have you back because as the landscape changes, I think this is so valuable to all of our subscribers and clients to really figure out what's like on the inside, right? How do you make sure you point the bat, add contribution, add value, and represent your brand well for any interview. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me, Scott.
And thanks for joining us. We have a great lineup of guests coming. You won't believe the next 5 or 6 months worth of guests that our bookers have planned. It gets better and better every week. Hope you enjoyed us today. If you aren't subscribing, visit FranklinCovey.com. Click on the On Leadership button and subscribe to the weekly newsletter. It comes out every Tuesday via email and includes a video interview like the one with Aaron today, also in podcast format, as well as a weekly blog article and downloadable tool. Visit FranklinCovey.com and subscribe, and we'll see you back here next week with an awesome guest. Thanks so much.